What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount Mograph, and my name's Matt, and as always, we are going to be creating a summit today. Today is going to be Summit 40, and we're going to be making this low poly treehouse inside Cinema 4D. I think it turned out pretty cool, pretty easy to make. There's some interesting techniques going on in this that I'm sure you guys will be able to use for some other stuff. But basically, I haven't posted in a while, not because I hate you guys or I haven't had anything to post. I just have had so much crap going on. Let me open up Cinema 4D R15. Yeah, I've been busy with work. I took on a couple of freelance things, and then I tore my rotator cuff, and then I got sick on top of all that. So I have just been a mess. And hopefully I'm gonna be all right, and I can keep getting these videos up for you guys. So anyway. Let's start by creating the staircase for this little tree house. So what we're going to do is just create a cube and press C to make it editable, and just scale it down to something that looks like a I don't know, like a little step of the staircase. So that looks pretty good to me. Now what we're going to do is press L for our axis modification tool and E for our move tool, and just position this over a little bit, maybe like 160 centimeters, and then just unclick your enable axis modification, and then do a PSR update so it's right in the middle of our composition. And I did turn off my grid right here. It just is in the way for this composition today. So anyway, if you don't have the PSR update right over here, like I always dock it, you can just right click and go to customize palettes and just type in your name filter PSR, and there it is, and you can just drag it out if you'd like to use it. So anyway, to create these steps, let me just call this step. I went through a couple different techniques, and I found this one that I really liked, and it works great. I tried using a cloner with a step effector to originally create the spiral staircase. It's actually harder than you think to figure out, and I ended up going back to the basics and getting into if you go into your tools menu and your range objects, there's this option called duplicate, which is typically used for modeling, but is very helpful for what we want to do. So also you can either go to that menu right there, you can do Shift C on your keyboard for your little search bar and just type in what you want if you know what you're looking for. So I'm going to go to duplicate. And what I'm going to do is turn my copies up to say 50, and that's going to be however many instances I want to see. I'm going to change my mode to linear, and then I'm going to click apply. So we won't see any changes, but you'll notice we get this null right here that has a bunch of other steps in it if I was to toggle down. So let's change some parameters here. First, I'm going to change my position parameter. I'm going to turn this down to, let's see, I'm going to go with like 11 just to see, and we have the stack now of copies of the steps. So that looks pretty good. And now since I know that I'm going to want this treehouse to be like 300 centimeters, let's say it's going to be 320 centimeters or whatever. So 320 centimeters tall, and divided by the number of copies I have, which would be 50. That's going to have a nice equal spacing that's going to turn into the height of our little staircase here. Actually, I'm going to do it a little bit taller. Maybe we'll go like 650 divided by 50, and you could do the math in your head if you're a genius. But anyway, so that looks like it's 13 centimeters. And let's do something with our rotation, and that's why I moved the axis modification point, because it's going to rotate around that point. So if we kept it in the middle of our object, it would just turn into a spiral up the object, but we want it to go around in a big circle. So since I'm going to want two spirals of the staircase, it's going to be 720 degrees, which is 360 degrees times 2. So I'm just going to do 720 divided by the number of copies we have, which would be 50, and that's going to create two equal circles for us to use. So that looks great. I'm just going to click out of that. And there we go. We have a very nice staircase that took no time at all, and that actually is a very awesome tip for other stuff. If you're making things, it was kind of weird to figure out, but I got it. So anyway, let's just delete this first step because we don't need it, and then we're going to just click our live selection mode and go into our spline menu and grab a helix. Let's change our plane to XZ so it lines up with our staircase here. And since our height, I believe I said was like 640 or 650, we're just going to make that the same. So was it 650? We will see. It looks like it was 650. As you can see, it goes right up along the side of our staircase here, and that looks pretty good. And let's just turn our end radius up a little bit. Let's go to 230, I guess, for both of these. So I'll set both these parameters to 230, and as you can see, we now have a spline that goes right along the side of our staircase and looks pretty cool. So I'm actually going to grab my step copies here and just press R on my keyboard for the rotation option and just turn this back a little bit just so it lines up better with my spline here, my helix spline. And there we go. So let's create a banister for our staircase. So let's go into our spline menu and grab a rectangle and turn our width to like 2 and our height to 3 just for now. And then with our helix selected and holding Alt, let's go into our menu here and grab a sweep, and that'll drop the helix into our sweep and then drop the rectangle in second. So what this is going to do is now create a nice rail for us around our steps. First, let's go into our rectangle here, and since it's still a parametric object or parametric spline, we'll be able to turn our height up or width depending. But one of the things that I do not like about this is, as you can see, it actually tilts funny. The spline itself has an angle to it. It doesn't stay like right up and down with the world. So if you go into your sweep options here and we can just turn off banking, it's going to align itself properly. So then we can go into our rectangle options and just change our width, let's say to 10, and our height will turn up to maybe 30 or 29 or something, whatever looks good to you. And I might actually thin this out a little bit more, make it a little sleeker for this awesome treehouse we'll be making. So that looks pretty dang good to me. And now what we're going to do is just grab our sweep here and let's name this banister. Try to keep things organized. Call this steps. Ooh, step is this, whatever that was. I don't even know what that word is. So there we go. We got banister spelled wrong and we have steps. I'm going to hold command and duplicate my banister. And I'm going to call this one rail or handrail or something. So I'll call this handrail, and then I will press E for the move tool and just drag this up a little bit, just like that. It doesn't really matter what it is, maybe 10 centimeters or 90 centimeters, whatever you feel like. So then I'm going to go into my handrail, and since this is still editable, this is the beauty of today's video. I'll be showing you how helpful that really is. I'm going to turn my height down here just a little bit and get a nice thinner rail. Something that, you know, is not as thick as the bottom one. So anyway, that looks pretty cool to me, and we're already starting to get a nice thing set up. One thing I'm going to note right now is in your render settings, I recommend turning on ambient occlusion. This is something I just have on as default, and then we'll get the same kind of renders. I've had some questions about why people's renders look different, and that might be it. Anyway, so now we got a handrail. We're going to want rails. So let's go and just create a new cube here, and just turn this down to some parameters we like. So I think 200 is going to be fine. Let's turn our X and our Z properties to like 4. And we'll have a nice stick. And then holding Alt, let's go into our Mograph module and grab a cloner. And I'm just going to name this cloner rail. I can't even click the keyboard today. Anyway, let's go into our mode here and select an object mode, toggle down our handrail, and just drop this helix spline into our object, and that's going to clone our cube, which is going to be our rail along that spline. So one thing that is funny is it's like flipping all over the place, and that looks really stupid. So just unclick this option here called Align Clone, and that's going to just make it straight up and down with the world. So that is looking pretty good. Now in your rail cloner, what we're going to do is go over into our distribution setting and change this to step, which is going to be the distance apart each of the rails we're making. So I'm going to turn this down until it looks pretty cool to me. So that looks good. I turn mine down to about 35 centimeters, and obviously it's sticking out over the top. And one of the nice things is I can just go into this cube, and since it's still editable, I can just change this height down with my little menu here, my size Y. Additionally, you can just scale it down if it's not parametric, but that's really what we're going to focus on today. So if you go into your rail cloner and go over into your transform properties, you can just drag your Y property down a little bit, and just until it syncs up better with the rest of your objects. So I'm going to go back into my cube, and I'm going to turn my X property down to 2 and my Z property down to 2, just to make sure it's tucked right inside those two objects. So if I zoom out, as you can see, we immediately have this very cool spiral staircase that is going to be kind of like the center point for the rest of our piece, and what really makes it look interesting. So now that we have that set up, let's just group these all together, Alt G on your keyboard, and call these stairs. So now what we're going to do is create the tree. So for the tree, all I did was create a cylinder, go figure, and then go into my side view, so F3 on your keyboard, and just position this so it's roughly in the middle of all your stairs here, and then just turn your height up. I think we did 650, so you might want to go a little bit taller. Just eye it out. I'm going to go above the rail because why not? It's better to have too much room. So maybe I'll go down actually to like 998. Looks pretty good to me. Go into my top view, F2 on my keyboard, and then I'm just going to turn this radius up until it intersects the stairs a little bit, and I'm going to call it good. So if I go back out into my view, it's going to look like we have some crazy, I don't know, it looks like we have a cylinder inside of stairs, which is kind of what we made. So let's turn our height segments up just to get some separation between this, and then let's turn our rotation segments down because we're kind of getting that low poly look. So I'm going to turn mine to 9 and delete my Phong tag. So now what we're going to do is just name this cylinder trunk, and I'll show you why this is nice. So now what we can do with our trunk selected and holding shift is go into our deformers and grab a twist deformer, and now make sure that is actually turned on. I always turn that off. If you go into your filter, you can just click deformer if you're not seeing this purple box, and then I'm just going to turn my angle up to get a nice twist on this. And if I do Command R, we're already starting to get that nice low poly look with no lights or anything. So select your trunk again, and holding shift, let's go over into our taper menu and then just turn our fillet on this, and then just kind of turn this up a little bit and get a nice shape to it. And then I'm going to hold Command and just drag this fillet down, and then R, and I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees and just put it kind of at the bottom of this dude. And then I might change the taper on this a little bit more, and there we go. We have a nicely shaped tree that our stairs go around, and they kind of float, but I'm not going to worry about it. Maybe I'll move this a little bit different and maybe scale it down. I don't know. You can have fun with it and just figure out whatever you like. And additionally, the cool thing is since it's still parametric, I can go and change the segments I have or whatever I want still, and just change the shape of the object if I want to go back and change anything. So that's very nice. So now what we're going to do is create our little floor landing that's right up at the top here. So what I'm going to do for that is go into my top view, F2 on the keyboard, and go into my spline menu and just grab a rectangle spline. Maybe zoom out a little bit and just position this roughly halfway between the tree, and then turn my height down and kind of get a nice rectangle going, and then turn my width up so it's something like that. And then I'll go back into my normal view and lift this up and just line it up with my stairs. So that looks pretty dang great. And for this one, I actually am going to make it editable. So press C on your keyboard to make this object editable, and go into your point mode, and then with your live selection selected, do Command A to select all your points, right click and go down to subdivide, and that's going to split all the points in the middle. And then if you go right click and subdivide one more time, we now are going to have nice cuts. So if you go back into your top view, pressing F2 on your keyboard, you can actually go into your points here and just create a nice little landing area. So just grab some random points and make it look like something a kid would have a lot of fun on. So I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about getting crazy and putting like a little telescope on here and like a bike at the bottom of the tree, and then I just didn't. Yeah, but there's so much you can do with this. I think this could be a really nice scene. So I hope you guys are having fun. If you are having fun, leave me a like, drop me a comment, and I'll keep the videos coming now that I'm feeling a lot better. So with your rectangle spline selected, did you see that business go? I just went all business on you guys. Anyway, with that rectangle selected, let's go into our extrude menu and just holding Alt, go and grab an extrude, and that's going to drop our rectangle spline, which I'm going to actually call landing spline, into our new extrude that I'm going to call landing floor base, and you'll see why in a second. So let's turn our Z properties down and just turn our Y properties up. So I'm going to zoom in and just see how this is looking, and I might just turn this down to about like 11 is fine. This doesn't have to be too perfect, and I'll just slide this up till it lines up with that first step there. And it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said, just roughly the right area, because now we're going to use a bool to actually cut this landing into the planks that would be like the wood planks that you would use. So let's just go into our primitives and grab another cube, and let's just do a couple little things. First, we're going to just turn this, maybe the X up, and we're going to turn our Y down to, let's go like 4, and then our Z size we're going to just turn down as well. So we have like a nice whatever, like a 2x4 or whatever you call it, even though it's not 2x4. So with that cube selected, I'm going to actually call this one plank. Man, I'm missing all the keys today. So that is called plank. I'm going to go into my Mograph module holding Alt and click the cloner, and then just go into my cloner objects and turn my Y property down to 0. And I'm just going to turn this the Z property up a little bit until you get a nice separation between each of these clones. So in my case, it looks like 41 centimeters is pretty good. And then I'm going to turn my count up just a bunch. And now all of a sudden we have this nice little plank. So actually what I'm going to do is go back into my plank parametric object and turn my some of my properties down again. I think I'm going to actually make these thinner. So I'm going to turn that to 25, nice and easy. Go back into my cloner and just change the Z difference up a little bit and see how that's looking. So I'm actually a lot happier with that. I thought smaller is better for this low poly look. So anyway, I'm going to grab this and call this floor planks. Seems like a good name. And now we're going to use the magic of bools to cut this out. So what you're going to do is just drop this floor planks into your landing spline. And if you are using this PSR, you can just click PSR and it's going to pop up to exactly the same position. And then I can just drag it out. So that's a nice way to just match objects to each other very quickly and easily. And you can still reposition it. So now what we're going to do is just kind of intersect these a little bit, and then go into our menu here, our array objects, and grab a bool, drop your landing floor base in, and then drop your floor planks in, and we're going to cut it out, but that is obviously not how we want. So go into your bool and change your boolean type to an A intersect B, and there we go. We have the floor all made for us, like somebody spent some time making it. So with your floor planks, what's cool is you can actually just move them. If it, like on my side, I had a little cutout I didn't really like. So now if I do Command R, you can see that we have this nice floor going for us, and we can obviously reposition it a little bit more in a second, but this will be good for where we're at. So now with your bool, I'm gonna just call this landing complete, I guess. I don't know, I'm just making this up as we go. So now what we're going to do is go into our landing floor base and drag out our landing spline holding Command to make a duplicated copy. And with your landing spline, we're just going to lift this up off the ground just a little bit. Something like that looks pretty dang good. And then with your landing spline selected, just go into your extrude menu or your whatever these things are, these tools, and holding Alt, grab an extrude. Actually, I lied. Don't do that. Go into your spline menu and grab a rectangle and turn both the width and height down to 2. And then what we're going to do is go and grab a sweep and drop your landing spline in first and your rectangle in second. And now we're going to have a nice rail just like we made before for the steps. And in this case, I'm going to make it just a little bit wider, so maybe like 5. And my height I will turn to, let's say 7. Looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is call this, make sure we're naming this, landing rail. And now we're going to go into our Mograph and grab a cloner, change your mode to an object here, and then drop your landing spline in. And so now what we need to do is probably make an object to put inside of that landing spline. And what that's going to be is just another, actually what I'll do is just go into my stairs here and go into my rail and just duplicate this cube. And then just drop it into the cloner we just made, so it's just at the same point. So once again, we'll go into this cloner and I'm going to call this landing rails just to keep things nice and organized. I spelled it wrong, but it's all good. And go and turn off my align to clone first, and then change my distribution to step, and then I'm just going to turn these steps down until I have a look that I'm happy with, and I'm pretty happy with that, so that worked out great. So now I'm going to go and just in my transform properties of my cloner, I'm going to turn my Y height down a little bit until it goes through the floor and goes through the top, and then I'm going to go into my cube and just change my size Y down until it matches a little bit better and it kind of like is hidden. So let's see how that's looking. Actually, what I'm going to do is grab this landing spline here and just press T to make it at to bring up my scale properties and just scale this in a little bit, just because it was not looking so good. It was like right on the edge. So we'll just pretend that's better. I just scaled it down a little bit, so now it's not right there. And now what I can do is just really get these landing rails just lined up a little bit better. So there we go, and then I'll turn my cube height down again. And the cool thing is even with all the stuff we've been doing, I can go back and edit all of this stuff with no problems. Like I think we only made one object editable, so that's pretty cool. Now what we're going to want to do is obviously make it so we can we can walk through this. Actually, I didn't realize this, but we might want to turn our landing rail height. We might want to actually lift that up a little bit. As you can see, it doesn't really line up with our staircase. At least mine doesn't. So I'm just going to lift that up like that, and that looks better. So then I'm going to actually have to go back into my landing rails and my landing cubes and turn my Y transform properties down, and then go into my cube and just turn my Y height up. Again, sorry about that, guys. I did not catch that. So anyway, this is looking cool. And obviously, if we made a treehouse, we want to somehow get into it. And this right here is an issue. So what we're going to do is create another cube. This is all about cubes, I guess, today. And we're just going to position this where we want our little walk-in spot to be. And this is just how great bools are. They're fantastic for modeling. If you haven't used bools, recommend getting into them. They help me every day, or at least every day I use Cinema. They're not so helpful when I'm trying to make coffee or go pick up my medicine or anything like that. So yeah, that was really stupid. That wasn't even like a joke. I was like sounding serious. I don't even know what just happened here. So that was horrible. Anyway, so now we have this cube, and I'm just going to call this doorway cut, because that makes sense, at least to me right now. I don't even know what's happening. And then I'm going to go and grab another bool. So I'll grab a bool and drop my landing rails in first, and then I'll drop my doorway cut in second, and then I'm going to have to go into my bool and go to A intersect B, or A subtract B. You got to find the magic one that you're looking for. A without B, A intersect B. Looks like that might, oh, I see what I did. So actually what we're going to have to do is drag out your landing rails, and you're going to have to put your landing rail and your landing rails, this whole thing into a null together. So I'm just going to call this like landing rails again, because I was only cutting out one of them. And then drop this into your bool, and your doorway cut is perfect. So there we go. That makes more sense. So now you have a little walkway up here, and that looks cool. And you can obviously spend some more time getting this to line up better, but this will be great for today's video. So now what we're going to want to do is probably create the little cabin that goes on the side. So for this one, I will actually show you guys another awesome free plugin. I'm going to call this landing, whatever. I don't even know what I'm going to call these. So I'll just group these together and just call this landing again, like landing inception. So anyway, like I was saying, we have this really awesome plugin I just stock over here. It's called Magic Solo by Nitro Man. He makes a whole bunch of free plugins, and they're all fantastic. Actually, they're not all fantastic, but there's some really good ones. This is one of them. And if you go into your layers right here, you know how you can like solo stuff by like right clicking or whatever, and they'll like pop up and pop there, which is cool, but it's not very helpful when you just want to look at one object real quick. So what this button does is when I click it, it solos that object by creating a secret layer, and as soon as I unclick it, it unsolos it. So it works like if I highlight two of these and I click it, it'll solo those two layers together with this secret layer, and it's pretty much fantastic when you just want to like focus on one object. So I'll put this in the video description. It's called Magic Solo by Nitro Man, and I recommend you guys checking it out and making use of it. It's great. So now what we're going to do is model this little cabin. So what I'm going to do is just make a cube here and just drag this up to the top like that, and just to get a nice idea of what's happening. And first what we're going to do is just maybe squish this down a little bit on the Y, maybe to like 7, and then turn my size X up a bit and my size Z up a little bit, until we get a nice look. And this is going to be the floor of the cabin, and I just want to get an idea for perspective wise when we build our cabin how it's going to look. And it looks like our Z is just massive, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit and put it right there. That looks good. Yeah, and that looks like a cool spot for a cabin. Looks like it would be a good place to hang out. And I'm happy with that. So now what we're going to do is just with that cube selected, just do this Magic Solo button. Just click that, and as you can see, it pops up, and we're only focused on our cube we just made. And anything you make with this magic layer selected, it will pop back into our normal composition when we're done. So I'm going to call this cabin floor here. And now what I'm going to do is duplicate our cabin floor and just lift this up off the ground. And then I'm going to turn our what is it called? Our Z down quite a bit, and then I'm going to turn our Y up. So we're going to get like this little plank here. So I'll turn this down a little bit more, and then I'm going to call this like wall plank, I guess. I'm running out of ways to name this stuff. So anyway, with our wall plank selected, let's hold Alt and go into our Mograph module and select a cloner to drop our plank in there. And then go into your cloner properties, your object, and we're going to turn our Y down a little bit. So it kind of overlaps each other, which is fine. And then we're going to go into our transform and just transform our pitch a little bit. So it's you kind of get a nice staggered look like this. And then if I go into my object, I can just turn up the clones and we'll get a nice side of a building, something like that. So I'll just keep turning that up until I get a height I'm happy with. And that looks pretty good. So I'll just position this over here and just drag it maybe like there. And then what I might do is go into my wall plank here and just turn my width down because that was pretty big and I want a porch for this dude. So that looks good. And I'm going to call this sidewall 1. So I'm just going to move this sidewall 1 back over here and that looks nice. And nice is obviously a term I'm going to use very loosely. And so hold command and drag that out over here. And then just rotate this 180 degrees, holding shift if you want to rotate in 10-degree increments. And there we go. We got a nice little cabin for us. So that looks cool. Actually, what I might do is make these planks even smaller still because the porch is so small. And if you're building a custom treehouse, you may as well have the biggest porch you want. So I'm going to actually turn these size X down and then just position this once again to the back here and just get that lined up, if that made sense. So that looks pretty good. Let's create these back walls. So I'm going to hold command and drag out this front wall and just rotate this 80 degrees here, or 90 degrees. I don't know why I said 80. You don't want to rotate it 80. And then I'll just position this roughly to intersect the other ones. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll just call that good. Something like that. And then I'll go into my wall plank here and just turn my size X down until it is roughly on all the corners. And then maybe I'll have to move this over a little bit as well. So that looks good. And once again, just tweak this size X a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna want to get it perfect, but I know I can't because it's going to kill too much time. So anyway, we'll call that good. And now we have a back wall. So I'm going to hold command and drag this out one more time and then just position this to the front of my cabin and then just rotate this 180 degrees. So the nice little flaps are on the outside like this. And we obviously have some intersections right there. And that looks pretty good. So I'm relatively happy with this. If I do Command R, you'll see that we have something that looks generally like a cabin, which is good. So let's create another cube here and just lift this up to where our cabin is and change some properties here. So I'm going to turn my X to 5 and my Z to 5, and I'm going to turn my height Y just up a little bit. And in this case, I think I'm actually going to make this object editable and then go into my axis center, which you can also just go over into your tools right here, or actually it's in your mesh. And if you go down to axis center, you can just dock this. It's very helpful. And I'm just going to position my axis point at the bottom of this just so I can see what's going on a little bit easier, and I don't need to edit this one again. So anyway, I'm going to go into my top view here and just position this right on the corner of my little cabin, and then scale it up, and that's looking pretty good. Maybe move it down and see if this is lining up, and if I'm hiding those awful little points I had, that looks nice. And then I'll just scale this down a little bit more if I can grab the right object. So I'll scale this down and we'll call that good, and I'm going to call this post, and then I'll just minimize these and go into my top view, F2 on my keyboard, and with this post selected, and just hold command and drag it over to the other corner and make sure it lines up pretty nicely, and then grab both your posts and hold command one more time and drag them to the back. So we're going to have all four corners created and covered with these nice little posts or support beams or whatever. So I'm going to actually put these into a null together and just call them support beams. And yeah, we're trucking right along. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. So what we're going to do now is let's create a ceiling. So what I'm going to do is just drag this cabin floor, hold command and just drag it up, and then just drag it over here like this, and position this in the middle of our cabin. And this is another case where I actually want this to be editable. So I'm going to press C and then just scale this down on the x-axis. Go into my top view here and see if I can line this up a little bit better. So something like that looks good. And then what I'm going to do is just click my ceiling. I'm going to call this actually. I should name my stuff. Grab the polygon mode just to select the ceiling, go back into your top view, F2 on your keyboard, press K to bring up your knife tool. Holding shift, let's just create a nice line in the middle of it, and that'll add a cut, and then go back into your perspective mode, grab your edge mode, and what we're going to do is just lift up our little thing we cut, and we have a nice angle. Might even move that over a little bit, and then just delete your Fong tag so we have nice hard angles. So that looks pretty dang great. So now what we're going to do is, with your ceiling selected, go back in your polygon mode, press T to bring up your scale, and holding command drag in like this. Next, bring up your move tool and hold command and drag backwards. Press T for your scale tool, hold command and drag in, and then press E and hold command and drag out a little bit. So now we're going to have nice little accent to the front of our cabin that took no time at all, which is fantastic. So let's just unclick this magic solo just to see how this is lining up with everything and make sure I'm going to be building stuff correctly. So this looks pretty cool. And one of the things I'm going to want to do is make sure that I have the end of the porch coming out on this side. So I'm going to put a door right here. So what I'm going to do is just select all my stuff again. So everything, I'll drag this wall right up here, and then I'll just grab all of these and click my magic solo, and once again they're all right here for me. So what we're going to do is just create another cube. We're all about cubes today. I think I already made that joke. Maybe I didn't, I don't know, but it's not a very good joke. So I'm going to press C. This one is just going to be used to cut stuff, so we don't have to worry too much about keeping this one available for us. So I'll just move this back a little bit. See if I can position this actually with the door. Would be nice. I'll scale this up a little bit and scale it in and see how this is looking. Oh, I'm just moving stuff all over. So I already have forgotten which side there we go. So we want to be coming off on this side. Okay. Anyway, let's go back here and just move this guy like that. And then we're going to just grab this front wall, which would be this one. And we're going to grab a bool. So grab a bool and drop this front wall in right here, and then drop your cube, which will be the door cutter there. And then what we might have to go is click your bool and go into your attributes and set it to A intersect B. And we'll just have to see what are the right settings. It actually might be A minus B. You just got to find the right setting. A union B, A intersect B, A without B. Maybe this isn't going to work. We might actually have to there we go. So it just was position wise inside the bool. So now we have a nice door cut. And what we're going to do is, I'm just going to call this door. What we can do is just hold command and drag out this cube one more time, and then just scale it up a little bit. Nothing too crazy. I'll scale it up sideways and then up a little bit more, and then duplicate that cube from our original door cut and grab another bool, and then just drop both those new cubes into that bool, if that was confusing. I hope it wasn't, but yeah, so this is going to create like a little door frame for us if it worked correctly. And I don't think it did. I actually kind of did a little bit. I probably have to make this door frame a little bit. There we go. That's how I need it to be. Let's see if I can fix this. I just did something stupid. What the heck? This is now not what I wanted to happen. So, sorry, I'm blinking. We'll just pretend that I made this door frame perfectly, which I know I didn't. There we go. Once again, you got to play around with the settings to get the right one. I was just totally blanking. And we'll just say that looks fantastic. So now we got a little door frame to our stupid cabin. So now what we're going to do is just use the same technique to make a window over on the side here. I'm going to call this door frame. What we're going to do is just create another primitive cube and drag this up. And then move it over here and press C, because we don't need to keep it editable or not editable or whatever, and just position this where you want it for the window. So I'm going to go into my top view, line it up with my building, go into my side view here, and just position this height wise to something that's good. I recommend also, if you don't use your views, they're very helpful to use all the time, so use your views. Anyway, let's go and create another bool. and just find which wall this is. It looks like it's this one. Drop that wall into the bool and drop that other cube in to cut it, and go and find the magic setting, A without B, A intersect B, A subtract B, A union B. None of those. Let's try this again and go through all those settings till we find the right one. There we go. A subtract B with the wall above it. So that looks great. We now have a little window here. So now we're going to create both the window glass and also the frames very easily. So I'm going to call this window wall, like Wonderwall by Oasis, but about windows. I'm going to go into my Wonderwall here and just grab my cube and hold command and drag this dude out, and then go into my top view and just scale this guy down a little bit, and that is going to turn into the window pane when we add our materials. So that looks cool. I'm going to call this window pane. And then we're going to duplicate this layer one more time, holding command, and I'm just going to scale this layer down a little bit and just get a nice little bar like this, and hold command and drag it out a couple times. It doesn't have to be perfect for today. And then we're going to just press R and hold command and duplicate that one, and then scale it up a little bit and see how that's looking. Maybe drag it back. And that looks pretty good, guys. So good work so far if you're following along. I'm proud of each and every one of you. But I actually think this video is pretty cool. I think it's a different one, and it's always good to do a complete project, so that's fun. Anyway, I'm going to drop all of these into, I guess I'll call this window frame, and we'll say that's good. Okay, so we're pretty much built on this cabin. You can definitely add more stuff to it. I don't know what else I added. I think that was, I added a porch. So let's just build this porch real quick. One of the things we're going to want to do is on the ceiling is, what do I need to do here? This needs to be over here. I'm just going to actually cheat a little bit and just scale it up with the axis center. But that's what's so beautiful about it, is I can just scale it up very easily. So we'll pretend I did that perfect. I actually forgot I had a whatever you call it, a porch. So I'll hold command and just drag these little support beams out like that, and that looks nice. And then once again, we'll just pretend like this one doesn't have to be as perfect as the other ones. So I will just rotate this and do a nice little handmade railing here, so we don't waste too much time. Because I hope this video is not dragging and you guys are not bored. I know I'm like a little flat today. Just, you know, I was just getting over being sick, so I'm a little still. I'm out of it a little bit still, but I'm trying, and I'm gonna get these videos coming again soon. So yeah, thanks for sticking with the channel so far. It's been fun hearing from you guys and all that. So I'll actually drag these out. And then just duplicate these one more time over here and rotate them 90 degrees and then scale them down. And there we go. In no time, we have a nice little railing for our house. So I'm going to call this, group those together and call those cabin rail. I can't decide what this is. Is it a house? Is it a cabin? I do not know, but it looks kind of cool. So that's all set up. Let's group these all together and just call this cabin. And then click out of our magic solo. So we're going to see the rest of our scene. And it looks like I have idiotically put the porch on the wrong side of the house. But we'll just switch that real quick just by grabbing these guys and just dragging them over here. So it'll work. So you can actually get into your cabin. It'd be so stupid to put it on the side. You're like Superman or something, just fly up there. So anyway, we now have a cabin, and we're going to just create a little ladder up there, which is also going to be very easy. But yeah, I think it's looking pretty cool so far, guys. And I'm having fun with it, so that's always good. I just want to make sure I still have those lines in there. So that looks cool. You could spend time making this. Actually, you know what we'll do is also make this this cabin floor. Let's not be lazy. We're gonna make it actually also use that bool technique. So I'm just gonna go into my landing and my landing complete, I guess it was, and my floor planks. Just hold command and drag those out into my cabin. Put them into our cabin. PSR update. That actually didn't do anything, but we're going to go into our cabin floor and drop our floor planks in there, do a PSR update so they're in the same spot ish, and just move them over. And then we're going to go and grab a bool object and drop our cabin floor into it. And then we're going to drag out our floor planks also there. So then go into A, intersect B, and then drop your bool back into your cabin and call this cabin floor. So that was an unnecessary step if you, but it's kind of quick, obviously. Like, you know, once you get into all this, you can go real quick, but that looks way better now that we don't just have a giant piece of wood when everything else is. And I guess I kind of slid on the ceiling, but you can do the same thing for that. Anyway, let's create a quick ladder here, and then we're almost done with the video actually. The coloring and materials and all that is super easy. So I'm just going to go into my rail and just hold command and drag out another cube, and like this, and then I'll just actually make this editable because I don't need it to not be. And then I'll just model a really quick ladder, and this is once again something that you could use like a cloner for, or steps, and like make it all equal. But I actually kind of like this organic look. If I can find my object, let's see, I need to be in my front view. So there we go, we got my ladder here. And so what I'm going to do is just duplicate this a couple times and not worry too much about if these ladders are even. I'm just going to go with this little kid's dad helped him make it, so it's not perfect. So maybe I'll like make these a little uneven or something. I don't know, this might look stupid, but then again it might look great, so who knows. That looks really bad, but yeah, I don't like it, but we'll roll with it. So grab all your cubes here and just put them in a null together and call this ladder, and that looks good. I might actually be missing a piece of my ladder, so I'll drop that in there. And then let's just move our ladder to the top of our treehouse here. So I'm just going to position this at this landing area. I hope I made it tall enough. If not, we'll use that wonderful scale tool. And looks like we are going to be taking full advantage of the scale tool right now. So I'll just scale this up like I did it perfectly. And then just use all children and rotate this. Oh, it kind of worked. I had to scale it up a little bit, but yeah, that looks pretty good. It's not quite thick enough, but yeah, whatever. It's sketchy, but it's fine. So now what we're going to do is just finish creating this treetop, and then we can go back and add like some supports or something, depending on if this video is really dragging. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour, which I know is a longer video. But anyway, so let's grab this tree trunk here and just hold command and duplicate it, and then just drag it up. And this is what's nice about the parametric objects, is I can now just go and select it and just scale this down a little bit and not worry about it. I can turn these segments down so it's different. I can go into all these different tapers and actually just change the shape of this object so easily. And I'll just maybe go something like that, and then just position this kind of at the top there. That looks cool. And now what I'm going to do is actually put this into a null. So I'm going to create a new null object and just lift this up till it's right about at the same point as that new trunk, and then put that into the null object. And then I'm going to rotate my trunk a little bit, so it's kind of angled like that. And then in my null, it's going to have the axis point centered to the world, so I can just do R and hold command and just duplicate a couple copies like this. And now they're all going to rotate around the same point. I'm going to go into my filter and just turn out my deformers because I just have purple everywhere and that was starting to look stupid. So now what I can do is just go and turn all these properties down a little bit, get a little crazy. I'm not even going to worry about if I see them or not right now. And maybe go into my trunk properties and turn these segments up, or I don't know. Basically just change enough so they all look a little different. So they're not boring and all just like exact copies, and we'll call that good. So yeah, you can just keep adding branches like that if you like, and spend more time with them, but I'm just going to keep it nice and simple for this video. So now I'm going to go into my platonics and just create a new platonic and just scale this guy up, and this is going to be the leaves of our tree. So I'm going to go into my top view here and see about copying this. So I'm going to just copy it over here, scale it down, maybe rotate it a little bit, and hold command, drag that one over there, scale it up. Very easy stuff. And and then maybe just duplicate another one, and just do whatever you want. You can make more tree trunks or whatever, and more leaves or whatever these giant things are, all around the tree. And it's really easy. So I'll just put these in a null, and I'm going to call this leaves. I'm going to call this like tree trunk top. Oh, actually they're all the same. So I'll just put these all into a null and call these tree trunk top. We're just about to the cool stuff, guys. What we're going to just do real quick is create the little support beams for under our house. Otherwise it's going to be falling. I don't know how it's supported even right now. So I'm just going to press C to make this object editable and scale this down a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. And then just scale it up, lift it up, go into my side view here. So F3 on your keyboard, and just find wherever this landing would be. There we go. So just scale it up, and then rotate it. Actually, I'll just duplicate this a couple more times. Rotate this out. Oh, that is just not the right size, but it's going to be fine. Just rotate it like this, and lift it up, and we'll just pretend it's perfect, even though it's not. But thanks for bearing with me on this one. So I'm actually going to duplicate these two, and then just grab my cube and hold R. What am I doing here? So grab your null. Whoa, I'm just doing some stupid stuff right now. Anyway, I'm actually not going to worry about the support beams. It would just be a waste of time. And yeah, it's very easy to make. You just have to throw some little sticks under there that look all right. So anyway, we have this nice little setting up going for us, or setting, scene, whatever. And let's just create a nice floor object. So I'm just going to make this object editable and just scale this up quite a bit like this. And that's going to be like the floor base where we'll put some grass. And well, yeah, that looks good, I guess. So now what we're going to do is just start adding our lights and materials and get this video done. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. First, what we're going to do with our cube is just grab the polygon objects and click this top one. And actually, here's another plugin I'll share with you guys today. It's called Perfect Split. Once again, it's free, and it splits polygons off of other polygons, which is great. And I like it, so I'm going to click that and just split it. You can download it in the video description. And I'm just going to call this top grass. I'm going to call this one bottom floor. And there we go. So first, what I'm going to do with this top grass is just go into, if you have R15, you have something called grow grass, which is typically for architecture. And if you don't, you can, any other version, you can just use the hair object to create grass. But now if I render, it's going to actually render grass, preparing grass. But there we go, we have grass just like that. And you won't be able to see it, but it always looks good. So I'm going to actually go into my grass objects here and just change both these colors to a more vibrant green. Make them a little bit more interesting, but this is not that important to the rest of the video. So now that I got grass here, let's just create some really quick and easy materials. So I'm just going to only use the color channel. Why not? And let's start by just creating the ground. So I'm going to maybe make like a kind of dark earthy color, and I'm going to drop this onto my bottom floor. So we're going to have the start of some colors popping in. There we go. That's looking cool. I'm going to duplicate that matte, and let's color the tree trunk. So just go into your color here, and let's just pick a kind of tree trunky brown. Drop this onto your trunk, hold command and drop that onto your tree trunk. Hold command and drag out again, and let's just pick a nice green color. Yeah, materials are so easy to use. It's all about the lighting of the scene to get the colors you want. So if I go into my leaves, I can just drop a green on there. I'm actually just going to make a whole bunch of different greens just for some nice difference here. And then I'll just keep dropping them on here. Even if they're only moderate differences, it just adds to the scene, and it doesn't take long to just randomly drag to a different color, even if it's like a shade different. And obviously the more you have, the more time it would take, but in our case, it won't take any time at all. That doesn't make sense. I'm like talking so crazy today. Anyway, I'm going to do a quick preview here, and we'll see it's starting to look cool, and once we get lights, it's going to look great. Now what we're going to want to do is just mess around with this staircase here, and since it's wood, we'll just duplicate our brown here, and just go and create another brown, different shade, and we'll toggle down into our stairs, and just throw this onto our steps. And then just hold command and drag out again, and we'll just pick some random different browns. just to get some nice looks to the scene, and then you can go back and edit them if you want. So that'll be for the banister, and this will be for the railing. I'll drop this onto the handrail, and then I'll duplicate that one more time, or that one, doesn't really matter, and make this one another kind of brown. They might even be similar, but it'll look a little different. So that looks cool. Let's go up into our landing here, and let's see. So on our steps, so we'll just hold command and drag our step color onto our floor planks, and then we'll hold command and drag our banister color onto actually it would be our handrail color onto our, what would it be? Landing complete? Okay, we'll go on that one, I guess. That's actually probably wrong. Landing. Man, I don't know what's what here. This needs to be on landing rails. Yeah, that's it. So landing rails is what it is. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't even care. I'll just drop some other colors on here, and we'll just call it good. Lots of different browns going on in this scene. So let's create another material. I'm just going to create a kind of contrasting color. So I might go kind of like whitey beige or something, and just drop this onto our ladder, and we'll call that good. And then let's go onto our treehouse and just create some other browns. So just duplicate this brown, drag out some other colors, and we might even be able to revisit some. So just drop this onto your cabin here, and just maybe go on to the cabin floor, drop this one onto the window frame, drop this, actually we'll duplicate this white mat here, and go into your transparency, turn that on, and turn it down to like 90, and drop that one onto our window pane, like that. And then, yeah, just keep dropping some browns on the rest of this building, just to get some nice colors going on. I couldn't explain it any other way if I tried. So yeah, this is kind of looking all right. Support beams, and then we got like the roof somewhere, I think. Where is this cabin roof? Cabin rail. So I just need to find one more thing to color. The ceiling is what I need. So I'll just drop a brown onto the ceiling, and I'm pretty sure I got everything. Did I miss something? What are these? I don't know what this is. Oh, it's the door frame. So of course, just drop this brown on there, and there we go. We have our whole scene colored. Very quick and easy. Obviously this was an easy scene to do, and you could add more to it, but I still think it's looking pretty cool. And now we'll just go and do our lights and get this all done. And yeah, it took no time at all, and I think it's gonna look cool. So I hope you guys had fun. Let's just go and create a new light object, and go into our type and change it to area, and our shadow also to area. Go into our details, and we're just gonna turn our samples up a little bit. So I'm gonna turn mine to 50, and change your fall off to inverse square, physically accurate. And the samples are just going to make it so it's a better definition for like aliasing on the shadows, and the fall off just gives it a fall off. Pretty simple. And then I'll turn my sample distance up to like 50, and yeah, we should be good. So I'm just going to move this around and actually go into my filter here and turn on my lights because I could not see it. So I'll just tilt this around. And actually what I'm going to do is go into my camera menu here and go to navigate, set active object as camera. So now it's like I'm looking through the light, which is fun. It's a cool way to position stuff. So if I want it kind of looking down here, I'll say that's good, and then just press cameras and go to use camera, default camera, and we're back to normal. But wherever I position the camera is where we're looking. So I'm just going to scale up this light a little bit. That'll be like our global light. I'm going to turn this light and just make it kind of yellowy, lightly yellow for the sun. And that's already looking cool. So let's just duplicate this object here and drag this over maybe to the back and rotate it a little bit. And what I'm going to do with this one is make it kind of blue, just for like the sky in the background or something. Once again, pretty easy. And let's see how this is looking. So I'll do Command R. And then we're just going to add a couple little highlight lights. I'm guessing this is going to look pretty good. And then we'll be all set. So I hope you guys are having fun. And I hope this video is not long and boring, because that is the worst. So let's see. Yeah, it's already starting to look good. We're getting some nice lighting coming in. So I'm actually going to grab this light and maybe lift it up a little bit and tilt it down. Maybe scale it down too. It's a little bright. and then duplicate this one and go into my cameras and go set active object to camera. And I'm actually going to zoom inside of the cabin, which is cool. So go inside the cabin just like this, and just position this somewhere on the floor, just like that. And then go back into your cameras and go to use camera, default camera. And we now are going to have a light actually sitting inside of our camera, or inside of our cabin, that like we positioned just by flying it in. And I might actually move this forward just a little bit more and then scale it down. And what I'm going to do with this one is set the color to a kind of orangey, like there's a fire or something in there. And yeah, we're starting to get some cool looks. So let me grab this little firelight, hold command and drag it down. And this is just where it gets really easy. Since we have like the floor, I'm just going to kind of tilt these lights and just put them kind of at the base here. Nothing crazy. And just turn this down to maybe like a beigey color. Hold command, drag this one out. Yeah, and like the lighting scenes, like this is pretty, I don't know, you just kind of tilt them around wherever. It doesn't matter that much. So let's see how this is looking. I'll just find an angle I like and do a little test. So I'll do Command R, and I'm guessing this is going to look pretty good. It might look awful, but we'll have nice little grass highlights over here. Yeah, so I think this was cool. Hopefully it doesn't turn out too bad. And then I just threw a black background on there and we wound up with something like this, which looks pretty cool. And I also added a little tire swing and the support beams, but I bet you guys can figure that one out. Let's just check it out right now if it's going to be done. Yeah, it looks pretty dang cool. So yeah, I might actually throw one more light over on this side. I realized that it's not lit enough. So I'll just hold command, drag this guy out, and kind of put it over there or something. I don't know. There's so many lights in the scene, but yeah, it's just, I mean, you don't have to get crazy with the settings. It's really just what ends up looking good, you know? So this is probably going to be fine, but I was so dark on this side. And then you can obviously turn on global illumination if you really want to get a nice looking render. But yeah, like these simple colors and simple shapes really can turn into a nice scene. Because I mean, I didn't even add any reflection or specular or Fresnel or anything on these materials, just like straight colors, just like painting. But I think it turned out pretty cool. So anyway, this was Matt from Mount Mograph, and I'm back from the dead, and hopefully I'll keep uploading videos for you guys. And today we made this awesome low poly tree. So I hope you guys liked it. Leave me a comment, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep the cool videos coming. So yep, that was about it for today. Get your learn on, guys. Peace out.